Hello everybody, I'm Nire. Welcome to my channel, and I'm so excited for today's video because today we're going to be checking out the Goodreads Choice Awards 2025 nominees. I'm planning on making a video where I read all of the Goodreads Choice Awards winners, and I just want to go check out the options and see what got nominated for this year. I'm not sure how many categories I'm going to be able to vote in because I'm really not sure. I read a lot of new releases this year. However, I'm sure I read like one or two, so at least I'm going to be able to vote in some categories, I'm guessing. So anytime that I can vote, I will be voting with you guys here on today's video. We're just gonna see, what the nominees are. We're gonna see if we know any of the books that got nominated or if all of them are books that are going to be new to me. But yeah, I'm really excited. I just want to get straight into it. So let's go ahead and check out the Goodreads Choice Award nominees for 2025. All right, so here we are. I am so excited. One book that I really hope gets nominated, it's Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That has been one of my favorite books of 2025. So I'm hoping that we get to see it in the nominations and I will be able to vote for it. So we'll see what gets nominated and what doesn't. So let's go ahead and check out the list. Okay, vote in the opening round. Okay, oh, I'm so excited. Right off the bat, like the first row, I have not heard of any book. So let's go ahead and see. Let's go. Okay, I already see one that I know. Okay, so there's four books in this category that I've heard of. No, actually five. Yes. Okay, so I've heard of Wild Dark Shore. That's actually on my TBR. I also have heard of The Girls Who Grew Big, but I don't know anything about it. I've just seen it around. And then I've also heard about The Names by Flores Knapp. It is a book that I really, really do want to read. It follows a person in two separate timelines where the course of his life changed depending on the name that he got assigned. So that is really interesting to me. And then My Friends by Fredrik Backman. It is also another book that I have, of course, heard of because everybody has been talking about it. It's also a book that I really want to read, but I don't own it. Also heard of Cursed Daughters. Again, I don't know anything about it, but I've heard about it. The same thing with This Summer Storms. I've heard about it, but I don't know anything about it. Yeah, any other ones I don't really know much of. So that's pretty much for the fiction category. I cannot vote in it because I have not read a single one from here, but let's go ahead and move on to the historical fiction category. All right, so the historical fiction category, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, I already seen what I needed to see. Actually, other than the one that, of course, I'm going to vote for, I have not even heard of any other ones. So actually, no, that's a lie. I'm lying. I actually heard of the Amalfi Curse. I've heard of this and it looks pretty great. Like, I love the cover. And then I've also heard of Broken Country, but I don't know anything about it. I just seen it going around and I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I've heard of any other book in this entire category, except of course my baby Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This has been one of my favorite books of the entire year. I had a great time with this book. I absolutely love it. I bawled my eyes out while I was reading it. Like, this book is just like everything to me. I absolutely love it. So it is a book that I'm going to be voting for in this category for sure. I didn't think it was going to be in the historical fiction. I had a feeling it was going to be more in the romance section for some reason, because even though it's like a historical fiction, it is centered around a love story. So I thought that it was going to be in the romance section. So let's go ahead and cast our vote. Let's go ahead. Yes. Okay, I voted. Yay. Okay, so that is it for the historical fiction category. All right, so moving on to the mystery and thriller section. I already see two books that I know of, actually three, but I have not read any of them. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see what else. Okay. All right. Okay, so I've actually heard of pretty much all of these books. The only books that I have not heard anything from is The Missing Half and Hardwood, The Widow, Gone Before Goodbye, and We Are All Guilty Here. So those are all the books that I have not heard anything about. Other than that, I've heard of every single other one. And I've only read a single one from this entire category, which is Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Now, do I want to vote for this one? I'm not 100% sure, because even though it's the only book that I have read from this category, I didn't really love this book. I gave it a 3 stars, so I did like it, but I didn't love it. So I don't think I'm going to be voting in this category just because, again, it's just not my favorite. So it wouldn't be fair for me to vote for it when I don't really think it deserves to win, So let's go ahead and move on to the next category, which is romance. All right, so right off the bat in the romance category, I've heard of pretty much every single one. I've already read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, but I didn't love that book. The Favorites, okay, I have read The Favorites, but I really did not like that book. I feel like that is the only two books I've read, I want to say. I've also heard a lot of It Makes You Happy, If It Makes You Happy, I mean, because everybody is talking about it, especially in the fall season, everybody's been reading it. But other than that, I have not read any other ones, so I'm not going to be able to vote in this category. So that is it for the romance category. Let's go ahead and move on to the romantasy. All right, so here we are in the romantasy category. Let me take a look first, actually. Okay, so definitely heard of a lot of this ones, especially like the entire Emily Wilde series is something that I've heard amazing things about, but I have not picked up. The same thing with Wild Reverence. I've heard phenomenal things about this book, and I absolutely love her Divine Rivals duology. So I'm really interested in this book, but of course I have not read it. And yeah, definitely Dire Bound is a book that I've heard about. The same thing with Enchantra and The Night and the Moth and Alchemize, and of course Mate and Onyx Storm. It's just that I just have not read any. So again, I'm not going to be able to vote in this category, but I feel like it is a pretty solid list. I have continuously heard about many of these books throughout the entire year, so it is a pretty good list. So let's go ahead and move over to the next category, which is fantasy. All right, so for fantasy, we have, let's take a look. Okay. So I definitely know of a lot of this. For example, Red City by Mary Lou it was actually my October Book of the Month pick. You know, I know of it, but I have not read it. And then Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. It is definitely a very popular book. I would be very surprised if this one doesn't win. Like, I have constantly heard about this book. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody has read it, except for me, of course. Yeah, I've heard really great things about it, and people are pretty much obsessed with it, so I would be pretty shocked if it doesn't like move on to the next round or if it doesn't win, because yeah, it's very popular. Watermoon, I'm actually very surprised that it actually got nominated because it doesn't have the best reviews. Like, I have seen many people do reading vlogs on it and they have been disappointed. Maybe there are some people out there that absolutely love this book. And then of course Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. It is a book that I could probably, if I could, I would vote for it, of course. I absolutely love R.F. Kuang and everything that she does and all of her work. And I actually recently finished Babel and I absolutely loved it. So I'm sure that if I were to have read Catabasis, I would have voted for it. This is actually the last book that I have from her, I believe, that I haven't read. So like, I have to get to it. So I have to be reading this book pretty soon. I've also heard of The Sirens by Emilia Hart. I've seen it in some bookstores. So, but I really don't know what it is about. And I think that's pretty much it for the fantasy category. Unfortunately, once again, I'm not going to be able to vote in any. So let's go ahead and move on to the science fiction category. I'm pretty sure I have not read a single science fiction book this entire year, so I'm not very hopeful that I'm going to be able to vote. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have for nominees. Dead of the Author, it is a book that I have on my TBR that I really want to read, but again, I have not read, but it has pretty good ratings. It has a 4-star average rating here on Goodreads, so it looks like it is actually going over well with people, and I am really excited for it. I actually do own it, and I just have to pick it up. I just have to read it. I just have to read it, really. Also, of Monsters and Mainframes, I've heard phenomenal things about. It is a book that is on my wish list, so it is a book that I really want to read as well. And the same thing with The Compound. There's definitely mixed reviews about this book. I've heard most people don't really enjoy it. I have seen one that absolutely loved it, and I'm really curious about it. It definitely has a very intriguing premise, so it is something that I'm pretty interested in reading. So we'll see when I end up picking it up, because I don't own it, so it is actually just part of my wish list and not of my TBR. But other than that, I have not heard of anything, I don't think. So yeah, again, another category where I don't get to vote. I definitely have to be better in 2026 of reading 2026 releases, so next year this doesn't happen and I am able to vote. I have a lot of books on my TBR that were released this year. I just have not read them, so I definitely have to prioritize them, and I definitely have to, you know, get better at reading the releases for 2026 for sure. So let's go ahead and move on to our next category, which is the horror category. This is actually one of my favorite genres, and I definitely have read a lot of horror books during 2025. I just don't think I've heard any 2025 releases. So we'll take a look and see what we get. So definitely right now I can see, oh my god, I can see a lot of books that I have on my TBR. For example, When the Wolf Comes Home is a book that I really want to read. I've read phenomenal things about, and I think that is going to be one of those books that I just absolutely love. The same with Immaculate Conception. I've heard great things about. And then, of course, Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This was on my October TBR, but I wasn't able to get to it. But I haven't read it, so I cannot be voting for it. And then Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. It is something that I really want to read. I actually just hauled this book recently, and I'm really excited for it. Also heard mixed reviews about this book, but nothing too bad, I don't think so. Really excited for it as well. Also heard about The Bewitching. I don't think I've seen any reviews yet. And the same thing with The Buffalo Hunter x Hunter is something that I'm definitely interested in. That is it for the horror category. Let's go ahead and move on to debut novel. So over here in the debut novel category, I'm already seeing some that I know. Definitely a little bit disappointed about Finding Grace, because this is a book that I own and is on my October TBR, and I actually started reading it, and that first chapter was just out of this world. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. And I, for some reason, put it down. I did not continue with it, so I did not finish it, and so I cannot vote for it. But it is something that I do own. It's on my TBR. It actually should be around here somewhere. I don't even know where it is actually on my bookshelves. It should be somewhere around me. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks that I just cannot vote once again. And then other than that, I don't think I've heard of anything. Maybe Aftertaste, I think I've seen people talk about, but I don't know absolutely anything about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the debut novel category. So let's go ahead and move on to the audiobook category. And let me take a look. Okay, so of course, read and love Atmosphere, but I did not read it as an audiobook, so I'm not sure how good the audiobook is. And I'm not going to be able to vote in this category either. So yeah, it looks like there's some pretty good contenders. I don't have a lot to say for this one. So let's go ahead and move on to young adult fantasy and sci-fi. Okay, so I own 2 books in this entire list, and those are Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft and Immoral Consequences by Ivy Marie. Immoral Consequences was one of my picks for Book of the Month for this year, and then Wings of Starlight I have like somewhere around here. It's right here, and I actually want to read it in December. I just think that it gives a lot of like December vibes, in my opinion. Like, it definitely is a winter book, and I would like to read it during the winter, even though I live in a tropical island and winter here is like non-existent. But I just feel like it will be a great book to read during that time nonetheless. I mean, Sunrise on the Reaping, I've heard phenomenal things about it. The same thing with Rebel Witch. Oathbound, I actually read Legendborn. I've read it like a few years ago, I want to say, and I have not continued with the series, but I really, really did enjoy that book. And then other than that, I don't think I've heard of any other ones, except of course like Watch Me by Tahara Mafi. And that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and move over to the next category, which is young adult fiction. All right, so let's take a look at the young adult fiction nominees. Okay, so there's one book out of this entire section that I have read, and that is The Survivor Wants to Die at the End. This was actually one of my most anticipated books for 2025. Unfortunately, I ended up giving it 2 stars. I really did not like it, so I'm not going to be voting for it. I've heard of You Found Oliver for sure. I read You've Reached Sam a few years ago, and I've absolutely loved it. It's actually on my bookshelves somewhere. And then also I've heard of Say a Little Prayer. I really am interested in that book. I really want to pick it up soon. It's definitely a pretty interesting premise, so it is on my wish list. And other than that, I don't think I've heard of anything, but I do love to see that there's a lot of queer representation in this book. So I love to see that, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to vote for anything, because again, the only book that I have read from this entire category I did not like, so we're not going to be voting for it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next category, which is nonfiction. I have read a few nonfiction books this year, but I'm not sure if I have read 2025 releases. So let's go ahead and take a look what we have. Okay, so there's 2 books in this entire category that I have either read or heard of. So Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. It is a book that I read, I want to say like 2 months ago, maybe in September. I'm not 100% sure when, but I absolutely loved it. I ended up giving it a 5-star. It was so informative. So I think this is going to be the book that I vote for. I mean, it is going to be the book that I vote for because it is the only one that I've read from this entire category and the one that I actually really enjoy. And then we have One Day Everyone Will Happen Against This. It is a book that I really want to pick up. It is actually on my TBR, and I did read, I want to say like the first chapter, but I haven't continued with it. I'm sure it's going to be a very impactful book, so it is something that I'm hopefully going to be reading soon. But for now, I'm going to vote for Everything's Tuberculosis by John Green because that is the book that I have actually read and liked. So we have 2 more categories, and that is memoir and history and biography. So let's go ahead and check out the memoir section. I'm pretty sure I have not read a single memoir this entire year, so I'm not going to be able to vote for any. Am I Well Adjusted by Alison Stoner is something that I've heard of, but I have not seen anything about. Like, I don't know what it is about, or I haven't seen any reviews either. And then I of course heard of Finding My Way by Malala. I read I Am Malala a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So this is a book that I really want to read as well. The House of My Mother is another book that I have heard of. And then other than that, I don't think I've heard of any other memoir in this list. So yeah, that is it for this category. If there's any category that I'm sure I am not going to be able to vote in, is this one. So let's go ahead and take a look. But I'm already, I don't know any of these books, so I cannot talk about them at all. So yeah, these are all the books for the history and biography category. All right, so those were all the 2025 Goodreads Choice Awards nominees. Let me know in the comments if there's a book that you are really hoping wins, and also let me know if there's any books in any of the categories that you are hoping to read very soon. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that we're going to be doing in today's video. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and also if you have not done so already, don't forget to subscribe. I upload bookish videos at least once a week, so if that's something that interests you, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.